Hello, I wanted to make a video on Kanban. I think it's going to get a bit big, so I'm going to split it into a few parts. This is part one. So when people talk about Kanban, which means signposting in Japanese, generally you think about people standing around maybe a physical board with a bunch of tickets getting excited. Pretty soon you might see them move to a digital board, and one like Jira, for example, comes with a lot of background information and stats like this control chart, which is good at showing you outliers, and this cumulative flow diagram, which I'll talk about in detail in another video, but I really use quite frequently with all of my jobs at bigger enterprises. So when I first think about explaining Kanban and maybe measuring those charts, I think about cycle times and lead times, and I can't help think about those two things without thinking about queues at checkouts when I was a little boy. And yeah, apparently there were such long boring queues I was able to add up two tins that were 41.5p each and tell my mum when I was 3 years old they cost 83p together. So those big long queues in the 70s were abundant in the UK and around, and really you've got the lead time, which is the total time from when you start to when you finish the process, and the cycle time, which is really the time from the checkout point of view that you spend processing the customer. And so if you measure both of those things and make sure your team identifies what they mean by both, because some people think of the lead time as the time from starting the queue to when you get starting to get processed at the cycle time. But yeah, you measure both those things and you find out how optimal your queues are. The supermarkets in the 70s put all the onus and the cost of delay on the users, the customers, and they were pretty fed up about it. So they had to spend hours upon hours of cumulative time waiting in the 70s supermarkets. Things got a bit more competitive, and then by the 90s and late 90s, you had more of queues like this. What the supermarkets had done with the increased competition was to massively increase the capacity. And so I remember, and you can see this here, Sainsbury's and Tesco's really burgeoning throughout the 80s and then 90s. And they spent a lot of money making these supermarkets super long, investing in multiple checkouts, and then you had a lot of redundancy, and that redundancy is how you manage to have optimum queue sizes, plus flexing your staff, and therefore it became a more of an economically optimized utilization there, i.e. the supermarkets took a bit of the hit on the cost of delay.
Watch this.
Would you like to come this way, madam, and I'll open this checkout for you?
Thank you. See?
At Tesco, we're constantly trying to improve our service. That's why if there's ever more than one person in front of you at the checkout, we'll aim to open another right away.
Would you sign this for me, please, madam?
Yes, of course, love. Now, would anyone else like one?
Tesco, every little helps.
So that was one of the ways they did it, and now these days we're thinking of getting rid of these queues entirely. So you just walk into your Amazon Go store, no lines, no checkout, no, seriously. And that's the future, unless you've really misperceived entirely where the value is, and you've got something like this Tuscan meat market where people just love to have a chat and a queue, and the shopping is part of the experience. That's probably not the case for most of the food sold in most of the supermarkets. But yeah, it just goes to prove you need to know where your value is to your customers, where your value is within your product, and hopefully there won't be any more nasty surprises. I'll speak to you soon. Cheers. Bye for now.